already.
Yeah.
A heel prick. Nearly every baby born in the U.S. gets one shortly after birth. Their newborn blood fills 6 spots on a special card used to test the baby for dozens of disorders that, if treated early enough, could prevent severe disabilities, even death. But unless your child is diagnosed with a disorder, it's often lost in the fog of childbirth.
Genetic testing?
We randomly selected 6 new moms and asked about their baby's genetic test. 3 remember the heel prick, 3 think they knew about the test, but like most parents, none knew what happened after the test. Were you aware that the state was storing your child's DNA?
No.
Do you think you should have been aware?
Absolutely.
You see, for the baby's own potentially life-saving test, researchers generally only need a few spots. The remaining blood becomes property of the state and may be sold to outside researchers without your knowledge or consent.
Blood is inherently or intrinsically personally identifiable.
Now, some states destroy the blood spots after a year. 12 states store them for at least 21. But California is one of 4 states that stores them indefinitely in a state-run biobank.
I just didn't realize that there's a repository somewhere of every baby born in the state. It's like fingerprints.
Companies aren't very good at keeping data safe. They try.
There just should be accountability and transparency.
While parents don't have the right to opt out before storage, they can ask the agency to destroy the sample after the fact, though the agency says it may not be able to comply.
These samples are needed to create the new testing technology.
Fred Laurie, former director of the Genetic Disease Screening Program, says the samples are invaluable to researchers and primarily used to identify new diseases, ultimately saving more babies. California has been storing blood spots since 1983, collecting more than 9.5 million since 2000 alone, and can now test newborns for more than 80 different disorders.
So you take issue with the fact that we say the state is selling your child's blood spots to private researchers.
I take issue with the term selling, yes.
He explains regulations require the program to be self-supporting.
It's supposed to collect enough money to pay for itself.
The biobank collects $20 to $40 per blood spot, which Laurie says helps to recoup costs. They've sold about 16,000 spots over the past 5 years, totaling around $700,000. In comparison, the program reports $128 million in revenue last year alone, mostly from testing fees paid by parents. They used to collect 5 samples from each child. They now collect 6. And while the state may not profit off the child's DNA, what about the researchers?
Do any of those studies result in something that the company could make money from?
Theoretically, yes. I'm not aware of any cases where that's happened because they're scientific researchers.
Laurie says researchers must meet specific criteria. Their studies are approved by a review board, and they're supposed to return or destroy remaining samples after they're done.
So there's no chance that one of these labs can pull a Cambridge Analytica, keep remaining blood spots without the department's knowledge to be used for other purposes?
I want to say no, but I'm not going to say no because I know how humans can be sometimes.
But Laurie stresses the blood spots are de-identified. No name or medical information, just the blood and a number. And to be clear, there is no genome database. The state doesn't extract or sequence the DNA, though a researcher may, depending on the study.
There is no such thing as de-identified DNA.
Privacy advocates like consumer watchdog's Jamie Court say blood spots are inherently identifiable. He notes investigators recently ID'd the suspected Golden State Killer using a public ancestry site and unidentified DNA. And researchers aren't the only ones with access to blood spots. We discovered coroners request them to identify bodies. At least one father used them to prove paternity. And we found at least 5 search warrants and 4 court orders for identified blood spots, including one to test for drugs.
The search warrant subpoena piece bothers me a little, not so much for my baby, but just societally, should that be information that's available?
But court's biggest concern is the appearance of secrecy.
What are they trying to hide?
The Department of Public Health says it isn't hiding anything, pointing to page 13 of the newborn screening brochure, which says blood spots are stored.
I feel like that's something that should have been discussed with us in person, not on whatever page in a document.
Everyone who came into our room gave us like another pamphlet.
I saw it as reference material. They don't tell you, you must read it.
But state law does require parents are at least given this pamphlet. For most, it's the only disclosure. And when we asked these moms to search their documents, only one could find the required brochure, admitting in the midst of giving birth and raising a tiny human, She hadn't found the time to flip to page 13. And she's not alone. We commissioned a Survey USA News poll, which revealed, despite state law, 3/4 of new parents say they didn't know the leftover blood spots would be stored indefinitely for research, and 2/3 weren't sure they ever got the newborn screening information. The state says it does print 700,000 pamphlets a year, but admits it doesn't track if anyone actually gets them.
It can be used for court orders, and that's not clearly stated.
And after reading the pamphlet, these moms say it's still not clear.
Did it actually say outside research?
Using them for, quote, department-approved studies actually means giving them to outside researchers.
I think that probably could be clarified.
Lori helped draft previous versions of the pamphlet, and when I showed Lori all the documents I was sent home from the hospital with, even he was surprised.
That's interesting. I've never seen that folder
And
before.
let me show you. This is actually what I got. I had my son 7 months ago. I got 1-page trifold. Go to the state's website for more. And I'll tell you, a new mom with a new baby does not have time to go online and look up the information.
It's not clear why I didn't receive the full 14-page pamphlet, but in light of our findings, court's calling for action.
There should be a state audit of what's happened with this program, of the types of uses of this DNA, and there should be a recommendation to the legislature.
84% of parents say they want the newborn screening information early in the pregnancy, giving them months without a newborn to process and understand their rights.
And then the burden's on you, who's a sleepless new mom, to remember to call them and then follow up.
Many also want the right to opt out of storage before the child is born and believe the state should at least confirm parents are informed before storing their baby's blood indefinitely.
Now, both the March of Dimes and California Hospital Association tell me they are open to improving the way the state informs parents, though so far none of the lawmakers we've shared our findings with have any interest in addressing these issues. Upcoming changes to federal law may make it even easier for researchers to use blood spots without consent. For more information on the legal aspects of this issue and how to find out if your DNA has been used for research, head to kpix.com.